My name is Josh Miller. I own Riverstone Kennels, and I've been training gun dogs for more than 16 years. I have field trialed, I've hunt tested, but at the end of the day, I'm a duck hunter. You might find that the duck in our DUK Dogs podcast is spelled uniquely. The UK stands for my British Labs. I love my British Labs. I love what they offer me, both as a part of my family and the high motor in the field. As you're going to find, I have some pretty special dogs. Follow along in our podcast series here as we talk about both in the field hunting and in the field training situations that will hopefully help you progress with your dog at home. Thank you to DUK for bringing you this podcast. DUK Premium Performance Sport 3020 is what I feed my dogs, and I am seeing fantastic results off of that. I've been feeding that food for a few years now and absolutely love it. If you are looking for a high-quality premium food to put your four-legged partner on, I highly suggest going to check out DUK Premium Performance Sport 3020. Also, thank you to Sitka Gear. Sitka, especially now with it being as warm as it is, everybody thinks of Sitka as the heavy hunting clothing, but I have been using their everyday clothing and some of their lightweight stuff, and it has made these hot summer days much more comfortable. So go check them out, www.sitkagear.com. And also thank you to Lucky Duck. Lucky Duck has their 5-star crash test rated kennel, and both now in large and in intermediate. So no matter what size you need, they have you covered with a 5-star crash test rated kennel. Go check them out, www.luckyduck.com. So this week, first off, let me tell you about last week. Last week was so incredibly hot for us here in Wisconsin. Very abnormal, especially for this time of year. Normally we get a stretch, like a little stretch somewhere, that we get a few super hot days. Yeah, it sucks for those few days, but it is what it is. And usually that happens like end of July, August. Well, here we are, first full week of June, and we're dealing with really high temps. We were right around 100 degrees number of days last week. That's just real temp. That's not heat index. And it just made for a long week. And I'll tell you, I think I struggle with it more personally because I have a very hard time shutting off the day. And so I had my alarm going off at 3 a.m., 3 o'clock in the morning, so that I could get to the kennel, I could get things loaded, I could get dogs aired, and then I could be training literally as the first light was happening, and I could be training as much as I could in the coolest parts of the day. Now, a lot of times we were getting done at 11 o'clock, noon, because it was just too hot. And, again, personally, I struggle with just shutting it off and going home. I've already been here for, 8.5 hours at noon. And I don't know. I just have this obligation that I feel like I have to, be there to answer phones, answer emails. And I know it's a personal thing and I should do a better job at it. I've talked to a lot of people. I guess it's an entrepreneur thing. You tend to go above and beyond. But it just makes for a really long week. Like I got to Friday last week and noon hit and I swear I was like zombie walking. Like I was like, Fridays are always my busiest day at the kennel because I do, my weekly updates and I let, so there's a lot of client communication. Man, it was a long week. And this week is going to be exactly the same. It looks like maybe a touch cooler, but we're talking, 90s. And so it's just so critically and crucially important that we get our work done early. So then I guess the only nice thing is it frees up some afternoon, time that I can break away and do stuff like this. But I want to talk today about standards and why it is so important to have standards when it comes to our dogs. This stemmed from a conversation, a phone call that I had over the weekend with one of my friends from overseas, and I want to talk about that a little bit. So I feel like very blessed to have the friends that I have, overseas, the relationships I have. I mean, I spend a lot of time on the phone with them every week, and it's just fun. I mean, it's true friendships, and that has come from a lot of time with me over there, staying at their house, training with them, and spending time with them, and vice versa. They've come here, stayed in my home, and trained with me, and it's been really, really fun. Some of my best friends actually are from overseas, and so it's really neat. But I have always talked to them about how I felt the standard of dog here in the States wasn't what I felt like it should be. And I know I've been pretty critical, especially on this podcast, because it's my podcast, and I guess I can say what I want. But I've been pretty critical on, breeding for the wrong reasons. And I've been pretty critical on, breeders that I feel like breed dogs simply because it's the dogs that they have, not because it's the dogs that they should be breeding. But I've had a lot of this conversation with my friends overseas, but it's different, right? Because they don't see what I'm seeing, and they kind of have always had a different feel and vibe. So one of my friends was judging a test here this weekend overseas, and we were talking about a specific dog. I have dogs I kind of fall in love with overseas, and I like to keep up with them, and maybe someday that either they become available themselves, or a puppy out of them becomes available, things like that. So I was keeping up with specifically a particular dog, and so my friend calls me, and I answer the phone. I'm like, hey, how was judging today? And he says, Josh, it was pitiful. He's like, it was absolutely atrocious. I mean, the dog work was so subpar that it actually was hard to watch. And I was like, interesting. And so we started talking about, some of the things that he saw, or rather didn't see, out of some of these dogs. And he's like, I finally understood a little bit of what you were talking about, as far as, the standard and what, people making excuses for their dogs, and, what have you. So this, spiraled into a much deeper and longer conversation around this topic, and why, we both believe or think that this is. And I'm going to come back to this, but I want to skip to a quick little story that I may have shared in an earlier episode. I don't think I have. So if I am, or if I did, you get to hear it again. If I haven't, great, this will be new. But when we talk about people making excuses for their dogs, or people that maybe have a higher opinion of their dog than maybe what that dog deserves. Like, on one hand, I love that people love their dogs, and I love that people, I don't love that they make excuses for them, but I love that they love them so much that they want to, they want to get the most out of them, and they want to, see the most out of them. Love that side of it. But I had a phone call, this was last year, and it was a guy that he had gotten a puppy from us, and this puppy was probably 4 or 5 years old, and he kept telling me what a great dog this is. He's so fantastic. He's the best dog of all my friends, all stuff, which is all great. We love to hear that. But he was very adamant that I should be using this dog as a stud dog. I'm like, well, yeah, that's great, but I already have my studs. I am very particular. I'm very picky, and he just wouldn't let it go in kind of a rude way, right? Like, everybody I know says that this is the best dog that they've ever seen, and blah 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 blah. And I feel like I'm pretty patient. I feel like I'm a pretty kind, forgiving person. At least I try to be. And I let this stuff kind of roll off my back. But there's certain points that someone will like just nab me the wrong way. And then I'm like, all right. And with this particular gentleman, he was talking, and again, just how, this dog, he said at one point that I'd be foolish not, to use this dog as a stud dog, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, well, it's hard because, of the standard that I have. And his comment back was, "You've never seen a dog this good." Game on, right? I mean, this is like, all right, if we're going to go to that level, fine. Bring him out. We'll run him. Let's see what he's got. Okay. Now, it's moments like these that I love knocking people down a peg. Because, again, I love that you love your dog, but, let's be realistic. And I've never, I had not seen this dog. I'd seen this dog's obviously parents, which, one of my points through the conversation was, well, the best way to replicate him is to use what produced him, right? But here we are. So he brings the dog out, and I had honestly what I felt like a fairly basic master or finished level test setup. And so anyway, we set up, and I'm like, all right, so this one I'm going to, have you run and just like to see what he's got. And he's like, well, can you run, one of your dogs, so that I can kind of see what this is about. And I actually had a dog that I had in for training. So he was a pup. He was probably only a year and a half-ish old at the time. And I was like, yeah, sure. So I take this pup out and, boom, 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 shoot my 3 marks, run the blind, diversion, great, all this stuff. And I was like, he's like, okay, well, he doesn't know how to run a blind. Like, I'm like, okay, like, how can I say, or how is he the best dog I've ever seen if he can't do this? And his response was, it's not his fault, it's mine. I haven't taught it to him. Well, that he also hasn't proven to you that he can do it either. Like, I've got a pretty good suspicion that he can do it because I know his mom and his dad and all of his siblings that I trained all did it, right? But like, you can't tell me that your dog is special when he hasn't gone and proved anything. You got to prove it, right? And this is again where I go to the standard side of it. Like, again, it's great, and the reason I'm going down this road is because, like, we have breeders and we have people that are having litters of puppies that it's because they love their dog. Their dog is a great dog, but that doesn't mean that dog has to have puppies. Like, let's look at this as a whole. Standards, very, very important. So let's go back to the conversation I was having with my friend. So we're talking about the again, excuses people make. We're talking about, what he had seen. One thing popped out to both of us of why we think this is such an issue right now. One is, and this isn't the main issue, but one thing is, this whole puppy boom of, with COVID and everybody wanting a puppy. And, we both felt like that had something to do with it because everybody was wanting to, keep their dogs and use their dogs and have puppies and everything else. But we both felt like social media has really driven this. How so? Well, let's think about social media. How often do you see, whether it is a kennel, whether it is just a private individual, whether it is a company, show you anything that's not perfect? You think that we just walk out and a dog smashes a 300-yard blind? That doesn't just happen. There's a lot of headache and blood and sweat and tears that go into that. But I think social media has skewed so much of our vision, and this is more than just dogs, right? Like, this could be appearance. This could be body. This could be, I mean, there are so many things that this could be, right? But it is skewed specifically with the dogs. I just think it is skewed, one, our expectations to an incorrect or improper level. But then the other side of it is, I think naturally on social media you tend to talk your dogs up, right? If you're a dog person, if you're a kennel, if you're a serious amateur, naturally, and I would say we do the same, right? Like we talk about our dogs, we talk them up, right? Look at how great they are. Look what they're doing. This is fun. We want to show off our dogs. So when they don't do something right or they don't do something perfect, we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to share it. We don't want to show it. And that's where, again, where we believed a lot of the excuses came from. He said that he had heard excuses from like a dog that didn't want to go into the water. And it was, well, we haven't done any water work. Okay, well, I guess maybe that could be, some of it. But, this is also a, 3-year-old dog. Like, it's a very basic water mark. Like, he should go into the water and pick this up. Right? It's so important to have these standards because there's no way. And here's why it's so important. I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but here's why it's so important to me. It is so important to me because being that I breed British Labs, there's a reason I do because I've believed in this for a long time. But there's more and more people that seem to be jumping on the British Lab bandwagon. It seems like overnight there's more and more, breeders and kennels and all this stuff. But there's very few people that I hear about that take time to travel overseas and see these dogs. See what it is that they're looking for. See what it is of why they breed what they breed. See what it is, how they compete. See what it is, what traits are they looking for. See the dogs even. All they're doing is they're, somehow connecting with someone, whether it's, via social media, whatever. They write a check, a dog comes over. Well, now that dog is going to breed, right? Because if you're a breeder and that's what you're doing, or you're doing it to produce puppies, you're going to likely breed that dog. Most of my friends overseas will tell you, we don't sell our good dogs. I have one dog coming over that I'm extremely excited about because he's a young dog with a ton of potential, and I saw this young pup from a puppy, and I've stayed in touch with him, through my friend who's owned him, and when he called me and said, "Hey, this dog is going to be is going to you." He didn't say is going to be for sale. It is he's going to you. And so when I talked to him, it was really kind of neat because he's like, this dog is too much dog for, it was his mom that had the dog. So it's too much dog for my mom. His mom called me and said the same thing. He said, "Josh, this is a dog for you. Like this is your style of dog. He's big, hard charging. He's, big motor. He's everything that you are looking for." Like, and I wanted him last year, both COVID and everything. It was tough. And I think she kind of felt like, she's going to get more training time with him. And one, I have so much respect for her to say, here's a dog that I love and adore, but I just know that we're not clicking and I can get him in what I feel like is a better situation for him to get the most out of his life. Total respect for that. That is so awesome. But then I would say even more respect, between the two of us, because I've literally spent time, I've stayed at their house. I have eaten dinner at their kitchen table and them mine. Like, that is how you get special dogs. I hope that he becomes one. I don't know. I won't know for probably at least another year if he's a special dog. But you don't get special dogs overnight. You don't get special dogs by not having the right standard. You don't get special dogs by not having the right relationships in my kind of a situation. It's so funny to me how it seems like social media has skewed thoughts on this. This kind of didn't hit me until I think it was last summer. We at Riverstone Kennels, we try to post, some content of us training and working. And I show some mess ups. I'll tell you, I don't show the train wrecks, right? I don't show like the really hard, training sessions to get over, and the stuff that we really have to work hard through because, there's just, I think there's a lot up for interpretation. You just get the wrong, person that is, looks at something the wrong way, and all of a sudden there's an issue. But I show a lot that's not perfect, and I show a lot of progressional, steps. And I was getting a lot of feedback from people saying, I love that you're showing these dogs screw up. I love that you're showing the real side of it. Now, I'm sure there was probably just as much kind of, snickering in the background from, different people. It's like, did you see this? And did you see what they posted? And did you see this dog not do that? Well, that is a reality. These dogs are not robots. They are not perfect, and they're not going to go through everything 1, 2, 3, 4, done. And again, I just think social media has drastically changed the way that we look at that. And unfortunately, I think it's changing our standards. It is so important to me to stay true to what it is that I believe I started on and carry that standard forward. So kind of to piggyback off this a little bit, if you go follow us, Riverstone Kennels, you'll see we do a lot of the in the field work, and we share some of what it is that we do. I hesitate to do a ton of advanced style of or advanced training on there because it raises so many questions as far as like, how do I start this? How do I do this? How, it's like, man, like if you haven't done all the prerequisites and done the work to get here, like you have no business doing it. And so that's one of the reasons I hesitate on it. But one thing that I talked about this week that I thought was really, really interesting, and it was interesting how many people had questions on it and how many people questioned it, is running straight lines. And I had a number of people that's like, why is this such a point of emphasis for you? And why is this something that you work, so hard on? And to me, it's a couple things, so the questions were like, is the reason because of, the way that you compete, you need to do this? Yes, for sure. Other people said, is this a style thing? I'd say so, for sure. I mean, I think anyone can appreciate the discipline it takes to run a straight line. Any dog can run the bank. Any dog can cheat. Any dog can do that stuff. It makes it easy. Don't take the easy road, right? But I think what it comes down to maybe more than anything is, one, basic geometry. What is the shortest distance between any 2 points? A straight line, right? So that's one. Two would be when you're, and of course that'd be on a mark or that'd be on a memory or anything. But let's talk about marks, right? So marks, straight line. When your dog is marking or when your dog is sitting there in a hunting situation and birds are falling and your dog marks where that bird is, let's just say you splash a bird in the decoys, it's a cripple, it's swimming around, you send your dog. If your dog then runs the bank, takes his eyes off naturally where he's running, the mark to look where he's running, he's going to lose that mark. So if he runs around, enters, from maybe a point on the other side and then comes swimming in the decoys, he is not remembering where that is. He can't even, he's not looking at the same spot. And he's looking at it from a different point of view, a different angle. And if that bird is crippled and moving, that bird is diving and is, now all of a sudden you're stopping, you're casting, like it is just not as efficient. What about a memory? Think about, bird 1, bird 2, bird 3. That dog is sitting in the same spot going 1, 2, 3. If he comes back with his first bird, goes to the second, if he doesn't run a straight line, he is looking at a different mental picture. He's coming back to the same point that he was watching that fall, because that is how he can help himself recall, right? So I came back, okay, I remember that other one fell by that bush. And then I come back and the other one fell right there in that little, swale. Again, if he doesn't run a straight line there, how is he going to recall where that bird was and efficiently get in that area, hunt, efficiently pick that bird up and get it back in a quick and efficient manner? I would argue they can't, not consistently. And then a blind, right? Like, we all know why straight lines are important with the blind. A straight line means less casts, less handles. Go straight there, straight back. And the feedback that I got from a few people were, I just have a meat dog. I just have a gun dog. Like, I don't need any of that. Okay, so one, I hate the term meat dog. I feel like every time it's used, it's like almost like a derogatory thing. It's like, I just have a meat dog. Like, my dog, like, is not, I don't know, maybe like not bred well, not an athlete, not wanting much out of him, like not like, and what I hate about that even more is every time, I can almost say without exception, every time I've ever heard that used, what I hear is, I don't want to put the work into my dog to make him anything else, and so I'm just going to use the excuse of, he's just a meat dog. Come on. So, if you have just a meat dog, I would say for the reasons I just talked about, it still does apply. It is going to make your dog much more efficient to run straight lines and to not cheat and to not bank run and to not do these things that I consider as undesirable. But it's really interesting to me how, there's that end of the spectrum. And then I got an overwhelming number of people that, sent messages, and they're like, oh my gosh, like, that was super fun to see. How can I get my dog to start doing that? Like, there was a lot of, like, I think, motivation after seeing it. And after you see something, if you've never seen it before, it's hard to process and it's hard to sink in. But by seeing it, I just think it helped people go, oh my gosh, like, that's what my dog was potentially capable of. That's what I'm going to push for. That's what jacks me up. I love when someone can take the content that I'm putting out, come back and say, hey, like, this is why this motivated me. This is why, this is why I'm going to go do this. And, I love seeing, staying up to date. There are a few people. I have one guy in particular that is from Ireland that, he and I message all the time. He tells me about his dogs, tells me about what he's got going on. Has told me some of the stuff just like about life of what he's doing. Like, it's really neat that these dogs, and that's where I'd say the positive side of social media is there, right? But I think holding ourselves to standards is so important. I know this was, a little bit of a soapbox, episode, but golly, like, I just don't get the rose-colored glasses thing. I have a dog coming in that is, well, to be blunt, it's, this dog is very expensive. I'm very excited about this dog. I am borderline ecstatic about this dog because I've wanted this dog. But that doesn't mean he comes in here with a free pass. For those of you that follow along, this is no different than, the NFL episode, Trevor Lawrence, go Jags. Trevor Lawrence should not be walking into camp as he's the starting quarterback. Like, he's still got to prove it. I want this dog to come in and prove to me that he's special. And if he proves it to me, then he's a part of the group, he's a part of the clan, and now we're, he's part of the program. He's got to prove it first. And I'm willing to do what I've done a lot in the past, throw away a lot of money, because I'm set on my standards. Don't get caught in the social media trick. I mean, it's just, it doesn't always go smooth. It is not always pretty. It's real. I love sending clients, videos of real training sessions, because then guess what? in a couple weeks when they're over it and they're doing well, there's more of an appreciation of what it took to get there. It's not all perfect. Don't pull your hair out because your dog's not doing it perfect. Don't get frustrated because on the third try he's not getting it. It doesn't happen that way. I hope you guys have a great week. I hope you stay cool. I'm going to try to. Probably not going to succeed, but I'm going to try to. Work those dogs early or very late, but I prefer early. Get them out there early. Keep them cool. Stay productive. And be intentional with your training. If you have a 5-minute session, make it an intentional 5-minute session. Go make progress. Don't just go throw the same bumpers in the same spots just to say that you're training. Go be intentional. Go crush the week. I'll talk to you next week. Thank you to Gun Dog Supply. Gun Dog Supply, your one-stop shop for all of your training needs. Go check them out at www.gundogsupply.com. Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Leave us a review on iTunes. And a special thank you to DUK, because without them, we couldn't do what we do here, bringing this information to you.